It was here, on the 23rd of August 2011, that we would see the infamous PhD flopper for the last time in its iconic form. While we didn't know it at the time, the events following Moon would see PhD never re-emerging again in its former glory, what most deemed to be nothing short of a tragedy. But how much of an impact did it really have? PhD flopper is one of those things that is almost entrenched within zombies folklore. Even the most dormant zombies players would be able to describe the perk as if they had just used it 5 minutes ago. But why is this perk so beloved by everyone? Well, once you understand how this perk actually functions within zombies, some interesting details are revealed. So the reason why PhD is unlike any other perk is because it essentially acts as a key that unlocks an entirely new facet and previously untouched way of playing the game. Explosives within zombies are simultaneously some of the most powerful and enjoyable weapons to use, but because they deal such high damage to the player, they're practically unusable, essentially locked behind this game mechanic. But what PhD flopper does is remove that barrier entirely, and as such, providing you access to all these weapons that are all more powerful than almost any other gun within the game, offering a new style of play and replayability to a game mode that inherently suffers from tediousness, which is represented in this poll here, which shows that the majority of the players never go past the 30s, where most explosives are still absolutely a viable option. So for the average player, having the option to now use all these weapons is going to increase the probability that they are going to return to play more often. So for the average player, having the option to now use all these weapons is going to increase the probability that they are going to return to play more often. So with this knowledge, let's see how PhD would have fared within Black Ops 2, starting off with Transit and Diarize. Now for both of these maps, PhD is going to have a similar role, both maps containing extremely annoying and frustrating features. And the ones I want to single out include the lava from Transit and the fall damage from Diarize, because in theory, PhD would act to cancel out both of these features on these maps whilst also providing you access to all these weapons. Bear in mind, according to the same poll for Black Ops 2, which sees players on average reaching the 30s as well, all these weapons would still be useful, most of which don't see much of any use at all currently. So using the same logic as Black Ops 1, PhD will have a similar effect, providing a new level of gameplay. But with these two maps, PhD has additional benefits. While yes, the lava on Transit does provide a good obstacle, there's already too much going on in the map. Not having to worry about damage from lava would in theory make the other features more bearable. And the same can be said for Diarize's full damage too. Plus, I feel dolphin diving around Diarize would be an absolute blast as well. For PhD on Transit, the best place would have to be the town. And for Diarize, it would be replacing Who's Who. Something I feel like not a lot of people would be upset about. I will say that I'm kind of torn on whether to place it in the sub-map of Transit Town. While explosives would be fun on this map, I actually feel the lava here acts to benefit what would otherwise be a pretty easy map, as a lot of the other annoying features on Transit aren't present here, and so the lava actually acts to spice things up a bit. But anyway, PhD on Transit and Diarize may not be the lord and saviour that these maps need. They would certainly be far more tolerable with PhD than they would without it. Despite this, however, neither Transit or Diarize are the map in Black Ops 2 which would profit the most from PhD. That title actually belongs to Mob of the Dead. You see, Mob of the Dead is an almost perfect zombies experience, but it is severely lacking in one thing: its variety of gameplay, and that's due to the perk options. With only 5 available perks, of which only 4 of them are actually useful, it plays right into the hands of the vitriolic withering, making it really a necessity on such a close quarters map, since no other weapon even comes close to being able to save you. But with PhD on the map, that would change entirely. All of these weapons now being usable would be great alternatives to the Blundergat, and also give some more replayability to the map. Not to mention you could also use it with the Blundergat as well. PhD flopper on Mob of the Dead would just add that extra piece that's missing from an otherwise flawless experience. And Mob of the Dead would be about the peak for PhD flopper, and the end of what you could call its possible golden era. As unfortunately moving on from here, PhD starts to become more and more obsolete. And that starts off with Buried. Now Buried really is an anomaly not just within Black Ops 2, but zombies as a whole. There is genuinely no other map like it. and it is the first map that would not facilitate PhD very well, because of the sheer amount of firepower that you have on this map. I mean, you have so much variety here, just with wall weapons alone, that having more weapons viable through PhD would completely oversaturate the map. This map needs some less than ideal weapons floating around to balance it out a bit. And I mean, we can see this as well through Perma PhD, arguably just as good as normal PhD since it's free and doesn't use up a perk slot, yet it's almost always neglected, despite the fact that of all the maps within Zombies up until this point, this is the map where you can pack-a-punch the starting weapon the fastest. I mean, with the bank, you could have Mustang and Sally's round 1 absolutely no problem at all. And I think that, plus the fact that there is a version of PhD available here, indicates that adding full PhD onto Buried isn't going to do much. The map is just not built to facilitate PhD. Not to mention that PhD here would be no match for Vulture's aid. It's also worth mentioning that explosives on Buried don't pair too well with Leroy, since even the slightest bit of damage will send him running. And before you mention, I haven't forgotten about Nuketown, but I'm quite torn on the idea of PhD here. Whilst it would add some much needed variety, I also think it would just add more chaos to the perks. But now it's time to move on to the bigger question. Black Ops 3. How would PhD fare in Black Ops 3? Unfortunately, not very well. You see, throughout Black Ops 2, there was a general trend set in place. Previously, the mode had been primarily gameplay focused, i.e. get your weapons, perks, and take out the zombies. But that changed over the course of Black Ops 2 as objective-based gameplay began to gain traction, until it eventually took over in Origins and the start of Black Ops 3. Despite the seemingly painful omission of PhD from BO4 Zombies, the reality is PhD does not really belong in this game. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, if it was in the game, it would have made a fun addition, but it would not have been anywhere near as amazing as what people make it out to be. Black Ops 3 for the most part is not a game where you just hop on to take out the zombies, which is what PhD specializes in. I mean, even if you wanted to use explosives, you've got Danger Closest. It's not the same, but again, you could argue it's just as good, because A, it's free, and B, it doesn't take up a perk slot. And if you really wanted, you could make it last an entire game as well by continuously spinning the gobblegum. But I'm willing to bet that most of you probably don't do that, because it's not why you play this game. And even if that is why you play Black Ops 3, there's so many good weapons, not even mentioning double pack-a-punch, that there's no need for more variety. And much like Buried, you need some balance within the box. It might seem disappointing that all the hype around Banana Colada back in the day was a bit misinformed. It would have been nice to have, but likely would not have added much to the game. PhD Flopper truly was at its peak in Black Ops 1 and would have continued quite nicely into the first half of Black Ops 2, and probably would have saved the disastrous launch that Black Ops 2 had, which makes the teasers of PhD on both Diarize and Mob of the Dead a bit painful. Although the fairy tale run of PhD through into Black Ops 3 is a bit of a myth. Even the legendary PhD Flopper is not subject to the changes that are made to the game mode over time. But at the same time, I'm okay with PhD solely existing in Black Ops 1 Zombies. It was a time when general gameplay and explosive weapons were at their peak in terms of enjoyment, and it provides a valid reason to go back and visit the older games as well. As always, let me know what you think down below, ladies and gentlemen. I imagine this one might stir up a few, and that's okay. And as always, I'll see you all in the next one.